Most of us have a drawer full of beautiful pattern paper that we absolutely love, but never seem to use because we don't want to waste it or we are not sure how to make the most out of just a few sheets. And when you do sit down to craft, it can feel overwhelming trying to come up with fresh layouts that actually look good without spending hours cutting, measuring, and second-guessing yourself. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. That's exactly why I put together today's video, because I want to show you just how far 6 little 6x6 sheets of paper can go. By the end, you'll have 15 unique card layouts that are not only quick and easy to make, but also give you a system you can reuse over and over again with any paper pack you already own. No wasted supplies, no overcomplicated designs, just simple, versatile layouts that help you use your stash and create cards you're actually excited to give. Let's dive in. So today I'm doing something I've never done before. I'll be using pattern paper with card sketches. I recently purchased the card sketches for Kendra's Card Challenge number 19, and I'll show you exactly how to cut the paper and how I set myself up for this project. However, I can't share the sketches themselves because they're copyrighted but are available for purchase on Kendra's website, so I'll leave a link to her website in the video description and you can check them out if you'd like. By the way, if you're looking for a complete list of supplies I've used in today's projects, you'll find affiliate links in my blog post that I've linked in the video description. It would help me out a lot if you use the links in case you decide to purchase any of these supplies, because while they won't cost you anything extra, it will definitely help out my channel. Thank you so much if you decide to support me. Now, before we get started, let me introduce the papers I'll be using. I wanted to dive back into pattern paper, so I picked up a new set from Spellbinders designed by Kelly Banks. I've already opened the pack and had a peek. These are 12 by 12 acid and lignin-free papers with 2 of each design. I've already played with a couple of them and I just love the prints. They feel so warm and cozy. The card sketches I'm using are actually designed for 6x6 papers, but I thought I'd try something different by cutting my 12 by 12 papers down to 6x6 pieces and using them that way. It's kind of like doing a one-sheet wonder, but not quite, because I really love these patterns and there are even some cut-apart sheets included, which I may or may not use, as I already have a pack of ephemera that I'll get to in a second. Now, I'll admit I cheated a little bit. I've already used 2 of the prints to make a start, but I'll be showing you everything step by step. In addition to the papers, I'll also be using pieces from the same collection, including some chipboard stickers. They're a bit lightweight, but are really cute. Along with those, there's a pack of die cuts I couldn't resist looking through already. They're absolutely gorgeous, very vibrant, and there are tons of them to choose from. I'll be pulling some of those into my cards as well. And to complement the collection, I'll also be using a few Spellbinders dies from the same collection. The Falling Leaves and Changing Trees die sets, the Alphabet dies, the labels set for creating sentiments, and of course some BetterPress sentiments. So without further ado, I've got a lot of cutting to do. I'll walk you through exactly how I cut and how I stay organized, since I'll be creating 15 cards from this challenge. Alright, so I'm ready to get started. I'm all prepped and I have my card sketches off to the side here. Since I'm making 15 cards, I've also prepared 15 envelopes to store the cutouts for each card. That way, nothing will get confusing. There will be several pieces per card, so they'll stay organized. I've assigned a number on a post-it note to each of the envelopes so the envelopes can be reused. For now, I'm keeping most of the envelopes off to the side because I won't need all of them right away. The info sheet tells me that the pieces I cut from pattern paper A will be used for card numbers 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 14, and 15. So I'll keep the ones I need for these cards in front of me and set the rest aside. Before I begin cutting, I need to pick out my pattern papers. Once I have all the pieces cut out, I'll move on to choosing the card bases. That way I can color coordinate the bases with the pattern papers for the best results. I need 6 sheets, 6 different patterns. I'm definitely going to use this one. I'm trying to balance bold florals with simpler designs so that the cards don't look too busy. These two go really well together, so I'll pick them. I like pairing one busier design with something a little more subtle. For example, this one works beautifully alongside this pattern. And these two coordinate nicely as well. I really like this one. It has a lot of character. I might pair it with this design. Of course, everything will get mixed across the sketches anyway, but it helps to have some balance. I've already used this particular sheet, so I'll leave that aside for now. I think I've found my 6 papers, a good mix of bold and more subdued patterns, plus some neutral options like plaid and wood grain. Since the papers are all from the same pad, they're already coordinated, which makes things much easier. So these are the 6 patterns I'll be working with, and I think they'll give me a nice variety across all 15 cards. So the next step is to use my large Sizzix trimmer and cut these into 6x6 pieces. The cutting is done, and now I have 2 sets of 6x6 papers. I'll keep one set I'll work with and set the other one aside as backup. Alright, let me start cutting the first one, and I'll designate this as pattern A, and I'll leave the others off to the side. I also have my envelopes lined up here. These are for the cards I'll be prepping. Sheet A is going to cut out pieces for cards 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 14, and 15. So let's get started. Wish me luck. I really hope I don't make a mistake. The sketches tell you where to cut first, and for this one it's going to be at 3/4 of an inch. Since this paper is 6 inches wide, that means I need to cut at 5 1/4. I'll cut this 3/4 inch strip down again so I get another piece measuring 3/4 of an inch. And again, since this strip is 6 inches long, that means I need to cut at 5 1/4 on the long side to get the 3/4 inch piece. The smaller piece is going to card number 14, and the longer strip is for card number 15. The next cut is at 2.5 inches along the longer side of the cut sheet. With this 2.5 inch strip, I need to trim off 1 3/4 inches. This 1 3/4 inch piece needs to be cut into a triangle, so I'll line up the corners, and now I have 2 triangles. These are for card number 1. With the leftover piece here, I need to find the center. Since it's 2.5 inches, the midpoint is 1 1/4 inch. I'll mark that. I'll also need to mark 1 inch down on both sides. So here's 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on the other side. Now I'll line up those points and cut. That gives me one larger piece for card number 2, and these 2 smaller pieces will be leftovers. Besides these 2 triangles and another tiny piece that won't be required later on, we'll have no other wasted paper. From the remaining 5.5 inch piece, I'll trim a 1/4 inch off the longer side, and this tiny piece will go to card number 12. Next, I need 2 1/2 inch strips from the long side of the remaining piece for card number 3. Now I'll rotate the paper and cut a 1/2 inch wide strip along the shorter side so the piece measures 4 inches by 1/2 inch. and it's for card number 14. Next, I'll trim 2 half-inch pieces from it again. Both are for card number 3. Now I'm left with a 3x3 square. I'll cut it in half at 1.5 inches. So now I have 2 pieces. One of these will go to card number 10. And from the leftover piece, I'll cut again at 1.5 inches, which gives me 2 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares. And these are for card number 11. And I'm just double checking. And it looks like I did everything correctly because every envelope has something in it now. So now I've got pieces sorted into all of these envelopes and everything's organized. Now I'll move on to the second sheet. Let's look at paper B. This one is for cards 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 12, and 14. So I have my envelopes organized and I'm ready to go. This is pattern number B. The first cut is going to be at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just checking to see if this pattern is directional. Yes, it's slightly directional, and this seems to be the right way up. Since this is a 6-inch paper, I'll start by cutting off a 3/4 inch strip, and that gives me a piece that measures 6 inches by 3/4 inch. Now, I need to cut this narrow strip at 3.5 inches. That gives me 2 smaller pieces. One piece is 3/4 of an inch by 3.5 inches, which goes to card number 3. The other piece is 3/4 of an inch by 2.5 inches, which goes to card number 14. Next, I'll turn the paper around and cut a 1/2 inch strip. This strip needs to be cut again to measure 4.25 inches in length. With the smaller piece, I need to cut a fishtail on one end, which I'll do right now. And for that, I'll make a small snip at the center and then cut at an angle from each corner. It's not perfectly centered, so I'll try to correct that as best as I can. This fishtail strip is for card number 8, and the leftover long strip is for number 6. Now I'll cut another piece from the 5.25 inch side. I'll cut at 3.5 inches. Then from the larger piece of the two, I'll cut at 3/4 of an inch, which gives me a piece that measures 3.5 by 3/4. That strip goes to card number 3. The leftover piece I'll cut at 2.5 by 2.5 inches, and I'll cut it again, but this time diagonally into 2 triangles. Both triangles will go to card number 1. From this last strip, I'll need to cut 3 more strips. And since this paper is really narrow, I'll use a post-it note to create a kind of a handle for me to hold it by. If you'd like to see this crafty hack in action, please make sure to check out the 20 crafty hacks video, which I've linked in the description. Alright, so the first cut will be at 1.5 inches, which gives me this tiny piece for card number 12. Then I'll cut the remaining bit into half, which is 3/4 of an inch each. Both of these pieces go to card number 3, and that finishes pattern paper B. Alright, moving on to the next paper, which is pattern paper C, and for this one, I'll need envelopes 1, 4, 6, 8, 11, 12, and 15. I've already got the envelopes ready to go, so let's start cutting. The first cut will be at 1 3/4 of an inch. Since this is a 6-inch sheet, 1 3/4 means cutting at 4 1/4 inches. From this strip, I need a 2.5-inch piece, and you guessed it, that's going to get cut into 2 triangles, which will both go to card number 1. With the remainder of that strip, I need a 1/4-inch piece. The strip was 1 3/4, so I'll cut at 1.5 inches to get that 1/4-inch strip. That goes to card number 12. Now, with the rest of that piece, I'll cut at 2 inches on the longer side. The larger piece will go to card number 8, and the smaller one will go to card number 11. Next, I'll take the remaining section, turn it around on its long side, and cut at 1 3/4. This piece goes to card number 15. Now I've got a square left over. From this square, I'll cut off 1 1/4 inches. That piece will go to card number 6. Then I'll trim off 1/4 of an inch from the longer side. Since this square was 4 1/4, cutting down by 1/4 leaves me with a narrow piece for card number 12, and the last large piece here needs to be cut into 2 triangles, which both go to card number 4. And that finishes pattern C, pretty straightforward with just a few cuts. Now let's move on to pattern paper D, which will also be quite simple. This one will make cards for 1, 5, 6, 8, 11, and 12. All right, let's get cutting. The first piece is directional, so I'll start with a cut at 1 3/4 inch. From that strip, I'll cut at 2.5 inches, and you guessed it, the 2.5-inch piece is going to get cut into triangles again, which are going to card number 1. Now, the remaining piece is 1 3/4 wide, so I need to trim off a 1/4-inch strip, which goes to card number 12. Next, I'll turn this around and cut it at 2 inches on the long side. The larger piece will go to card number 8, and the smaller one goes to card number 11. Now I'm left with another section. I'll turn it around on its long side, cut it 1 inch, and that piece goes to card number 6. The next piece will need to be rotated again to its shorter side and cut to 3 3/4, and that goes to card number 5. From the narrow strip that's left, I'll cut at 4 1/4 inches. This tiny one will need a fishtail again. Let's see. Yes, this one turned out much better. It actually looks like a fishtail this time. This fishtail piece goes to card number 8, and the long strip that's left will go to card number 6, and that finishes up this set. We've got 2 more to go. The next one is pattern number E, and this will make cards 5, 7, 9, 10, and 14. The first cut is at 2.5 inches. Wait, no, I'm wrong. The first cut is actually at 3 inches. Thank goodness I didn't cut it yet. All right, now I need to turn this around and cut it again at 3 inches, giving me 2 3-inch by 3-inch squares. Next, I need to cut one of the squares into halves, so I'll cut it into 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares, giving me 4 smaller squares. These 4 squares are going to card number 9. Now, from the remaining square, I need to cut triangles. These triangles will also need to be halved again, so I'll line them up carefully, making sure they're butted up against the edge of the trimmer so everything is even. And there we go. Now we have 4 triangles, which are going to card number 7. Moving on to the remaining section, this piece needs to be cut at 1.5 inches along the long side by 3 inches, which goes to card number 10. From the remaining piece, I need a 1/2 inch strip along the shorter side. Since this section is 3 inches long, I'll cut it at 2.5 inches. For this narrow strip, I need it to be 4 inches long, which leaves just a small scrap that won't go on any card. This particular piece goes to card number 14. Next, I need to make a fishtail cut on the larger piece that's left. So let me do some measuring here to get the center again. The strip here is 2.5 inches wide, so I need to mark it at 1.25 inches. I'll use my ruler and the grid to line it up so I know exactly where to cut. Let me show you an alternative way to cut a fishtail so you get the exact same angle on both sides. Cut one side and then place the cutout piece on the other side. Hold it steady, lining it up carefully, then just snip off that corner. And there you have it, a perfectly angled fishtail. And I should have used this method for the earlier one. This fishtail is going to card number 5, and the remaining piece is also for card number 5. This is the final set of cuts. For this paper, I'll need pieces for card numbers 4, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So quite a few cuts. Let's get started. The first cut is at 2 inches, and from this strip, I'll need a 1 3/4 inch piece. By the way, I got this circle die from Gina K's Master Layouts 3, and I'll be cutting out 3 circles from this piece. I'll leave it on my die catcher so I don't lose the die and set it aside for now. Next, I'll cut this piece at 3 inches on the long side. For one of these 3-inch pieces, I'll turn it around on its long side and cut a 1-inch strip. This goes to card number 8. From the remaining piece, I need 1.5 by 1.5 inch pieces. I made a little mistake here because I should have cut the angle first. So the only way out will be to stack the pieces, mark these at 1.5 inches on 2 sides to make it easier to cut. Now we have 2 larger triangles which go to card number 7, and out of the 4 smaller triangles, 2 go to card number 7 and 2 to card number 12. Next, I have to be very careful with this 3-inch piece. I'll cut it 1.5 inches and then have it so they become 2 1.5 inch squares. One goes to card 11, the other to card 15. Then slice the remaining piece in half on the long side and both go to card 14. Now I'll die cut the 3 circles I had set aside earlier. These have a nice stitch detail on the edges. One of these circles will go to card number 4 and the other two go to 13. With all the envelopes organized and after checking that all have something inside them, it seems I'm finally ready to get started with the card making. Now, if you want to see how I put all the 15 cards together, keep watching. I'm back with the cards and I'll walk you through each of them, but overall I'm really excited by how gorgeous the designs look. Card number 1 uses triangles only. The arrangement should have resembled a kind of pinwheel, but because I use single-sided pattern paper, I couldn't flip it around, so the pattern looks more rectangular than like a pinwheel. This is something I'll have to remember for next time. I picked the card bases for all the cards to match the color palette, and I added lots of ephemera throughout. I made this a top fold or a tent fold card and added a twine bow. Card number 2 has a bit of shine because I added strips of mirror foil cardstock, layered the banner with a mat, and some gems for extra sparkle. The sketches are a great jumping off point, but I added my own spin to some of the cards. I'm blown away by how each card looks so unique. Very simple to work with, the sketches, but they came together so easily with the sketches as a guide. Card number 3 uses sentiments from my stash. I added a chipboard sticker, a few Pinkfresh Studio gems, and the other gems, by the way, were from Salmon Says Stamp. Card number 4 uses the triangles we cut earlier. I added a sentiment I created with the BetterPress plate from the collection, matted the circle, and layered the ephemera directly onto the card base. Card number 5 has an orange mat to highlight the orange in the flowers. I accidentally adhered the panel upside down, given it has some text on it, but the pattern is mostly covered, so it works. I added a sentiment created with the same set of BetterPress plates, and I also added some chipboard stickers. I kept the elements fairly neutral, so this could even work as a masculine card despite the tiny flowers, because a masculine card doesn't mean you can't have any flowers at all, because men do love flowers and they often love gardening. Card number 6 is a simple yet elegant card. It's such a simple layout but looks so pretty. I used the strips, of course, a die cut from the pack of ephemera for the focal point, and then added tiny gems to the flower centers, a piece of twine, and stamped the sentiment directly onto the card base that has no mat. Card number 7 is all about triangles. Simple elements created the background, which are adhered flat on the card base and decorated with a few foreground pieces which are on foam tape for dimension. I added touches of Wink of Stella in gold for a little bit of shimmer. Card number 8 is a horizontal one, and again, very simple. I added the happy and a few other die-cut ephemera. The tiny banners were already cut out, if you can remember. I created the fall label using one of the dies from the Spellbinders Documenting Labels die set from the same collection and foam mounted it, and it serves as the focal point of the card. Card number 9 follows a similar design to card number 7. I used chipboard stickers on this for dimension instead of foam squares. This was another pinwheel design and probably the hardest one to line up. All the twine bows on the cards are adhered with glue dots. Card number 10 is a masculine card. You can add secondary sentiments like a happy birthday or thank you to give this card more context and meaning. Very simple design, and I used the alphabet dies to cut out the word hello. And I kept the layout flat except for the raised sentiment strip that adds some dimension. Card number 11 looks really nice with the squares. Although the sketch didn't call for it, but I added a mat to each of the squares. Looks like I adhered the panel a little bit crooked, but oh well. It's a handmade card after all. I added another BetterPress sentiment, and I used a die-cut ephemera for the card's focal point. Card number 12 uses a matted square for grounding the sentiment, chipboard alphabet stickers, and some sparkly gems from Honeybee Crafts, plus a few ephemera die cuts. Card number 13 is all about circles from Master Layouts 3. I added stitch details and a spellbinder sentiment with some gems. Card number 14 is a simple but dimensional one. I used the Changing Trees die set to create the tree and used a couple of acorns from the ephemera pack. I layered the acorns to create some depth by adhering the bottom one directly to the card base and adding a foam square to the top one for dimension. I also added a chipboard sticker and a jute twine bow. Finally, card number 15 uses matted strips from the pattern paper and can be used as a masculine card. I can add a secondary sentiment here later and adapt it to any occasion should the need arise. And instead of using a solid color card panel as a background, I decided to add more of the wood grain pattern paper to maintain a coordinated look. And like I've already mentioned, almost every bit of the pattern paper sheets were utilized except for 3 tiny scrap pieces, which I can always use to embellish my envelopes. All 15 cards are complete. Each one is unique and gorgeous, and it's amazing how there's almost no waste. These layouts were so much fun to create, and I'll definitely use this card sketch again and again. Please let me know which card was your favorite and if you want to try these layouts yourself. I have a couple more videos on pattern papers in case you're looking for inspiration, so you can check the first of those videos by clicking on the thumbnail here.